So do you enjoy the content here on Thoughtful Faith? If so, be sure to hit the notification bell. This ensures that our new videos show up on your feed. Also, be sure to check out our Facebook group called Thoughtful Saints, where myself and others discuss the sorts of topics found on this channel. And lastly, if you think other people would benefit from this video, please be sure to share it. Hey guys, so just before we get into today's video, I wanted to say that of all the people who have helped me see the intellectual flaws in atheism, none has impacted me as much as William Lane Craig. He has debated the foremost atheists in the world, including people like Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Lawrence Krauss. I highly encourage everyone to watch these debates. Just YouTube William Lane Craig debates. Now, I obviously have serious theological issues with Dr. Craig, but watching him deal with atheist arguments helped me to realize how weak many of the atheist arguments are when rigorously scrutinized. So check him out on YouTube. You won't regret it. We all see the woke movement. And that's sort of the colloquial term for sort of this way of viewing the world, right? It's
their term, which they get mad if you use now. So
yeah, but the technical term for it is critical consciousness. Okay, it's the idea that you now are awake to the power dynamics of society, and now your mission in life is to play that game of those power dynamics. And, you know, for most of them, it's to create equity within the power dynamic structures of society. And the people at the top of the power dynamics are white heterosexual males. And so that's why the patriarchy needs to go. And anyway, there's all that kind of stuff that's built into it. But what I want to kind of pull this back to is to the way that this relates to religion itself. Because what's happened is that I think that the new atheist movement, they had the fantasy that let's get rid of religion and then everyone will get really, really rational, and like the rational utopia will emerge from the death of religion.
Oh, they were
and that's not what happened.
No, not at all.
At all.
Mm-mm.
Because humans are fundamentally religious creatures in a way. And
no, totally. Like, I wouldn't even say in a way. I'd say it all is, because there was a time frame where people always thought that was just like some phrase that you say to try to get you and got you. But no, if I go down to the bottom of the theories, just the same way that these guys go to the bottom of religious theories to try to debunk it, if we go to the bottom of all your theories, there's a mysticism down at the bottom of it, an admitted one. And I don't think there is any that isn't. I mean, I think you've pointed out that Nietzsche kind of gets there, but that's the realism of their situations, because we say the postmodernists say there's no hard truth, but they fail at that, right? Because they'll say that there's a hard truth that well, the hard truth is that the top of it's an oppressor, you know, or they say something like the postmodernists. I mean, they say something like they don't believe in like a grand narrative. But then it's all obvious if you read through all their writings. Like, you read Leotard, he's obviously a Marxist and said that he was pushing for Marxists, and hope in the same way that you're talking about the new atheists, most critical people who just do critical stuff always have this thing of, if I criticize it down to zero, utopia springs out. And that's what maybe Karl Popper called like a historicism, or that really is the belief of like Marcuse or people like that, who thought they could. I mean, they also never had to posit anything positive, so they could never be criticized. But if we just criticize all the way down, but the way it comes in like a hard scientific criticism or some Marxist criticism, because critical theory, if you look it up, there's critical thinking and critical theory, which are two different things. Critical theory is explicitly Marxist, but I think in a weird way, they both still act in the same way. You're just criticizing all the way down, deconstructing all the way down, and then you think utopia comes from that. And you never posit anything positive. And utopia never comes out of that. And so going back to Nietzsche, like Nietzsche himself, like still, he didn't live up to his own standards, or he didn't, even a Dionysian cult came out of his own beliefs from Siddhartha and all that sorts of stuff. Like he got the closest mentally, you know, in some sorts of ways, and it failed. It still didn't happen that way. It still became religious and a religious cult following. And
well, anytime you're trying to posit something positive, there's a religious element that comes out of it, right? Simply because if you're going to posit something positive, you're going to posit that there's some way that it should be.
The idealism, but like I said, because that idealism, you can say, hey, look, you're kind of doing religion. But what I'm also saying is that if you go back to Hegel and Marx, they're pulling from all sorts of weird Hermetic mystics. Like they were the whole entire time. But even beyond that, we can just say, yeah, how it acts in the universe still. It's like a religious idealism.
It's impossible to build something positive without creating a structure, a hierarchy of values. And then you have to ground that hierarchy of values in something.
And there's always like an imagined, you know, utopia or savior moment. There's always an imagined getting there or something like that. And
so